back to the Solitary Practice Podcast. So, my laptop has decided tonight that it must be loud. I don't know why it's never loud when I record, but it's obviously very cranky tonight. Probably because I am going to talk a little bit about energy. And I don't know, maybe I'm setting the laptop off, or, maybe I've set things off because I intend to talk about it. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, doesn't really matter. Anyway, when I was getting started, and it came time to, I guess, move on to the next step. I had mastered being still. I had mastered being silent. And when I say mastered, nobody's perfect, but for my age, it was considered mastery level. I understood the value of it. I could do it when I needed to, and it became time to move to the next step, which was to be able to, I guess I'm going to say use energy, but the thing is that next step required me not to use it, which seems counterintuitive, but go with me here. My, I guess, task was not to do anything with the energies surrounding me. It was to understand them. Not to know about them, not to learn about them, but to understand them. And there is a difference between knowing something and understanding something. And I'll just leave everybody to ruminate on that at their leisure. But it was for me to understand the energies. And I had to understand how they work together, the different levels, the different intricacies of them. Some were more suited for certain things while others were not, and there was a certain balance in there. And, we had to learn how to pick up on how they interacted with each other and how there would be friction here, or maybe this worked really well together. I did not learn to think of them as these are herbal energies, these are crystal energies, these are elemental energies, these are god and goddess energies. It rarely happens that energy is in a vacuum. Everything has a certain ebb and flow. There is a rhythm to it. I think that a lot of people struggle with really, truly, on an instinctive level, getting down into the true understanding of the energetic, I'm going to say, flow. And part of that comes because most people do not stay in the same area for a really, really long period of time. Some people do, but I think the predominant amount of practitioners tend to move, at least at some point in their life. They do not usually stay in one spot for their entire life. There's some form of motion involved. You'll hear a lot of people really remember being young and on a grandparent's farm or something like that, and they had a very strong connection there. If they had stayed in that one spot and allowed that to build over decades, that's going to be a different depth of understanding than you're going to have if you move a lot. And the more you move, the, I think, tougher it is. You can get a read on a place, absolutely. There are plenty of liminal spaces. There are plenty of really special areas. You can go there, you can walk there, whatever, you're going to see that, and you're going to pick up on it. But much like it's hard to step in the same river twice, because the water's always moving, the energy's always moving. If you go and then come back a year later, it is not the same as it was when it went there. You were there before. It's moved. However, if you were to stand in the river for an entire year, you would have a completely different perspective and understanding of that river, because you're going to know when it goes up, when it goes down, how different things affect it. And it's the same with energies. And there are many, many, many different kinds of energies in any one given spot at any one given time. And we're going to let that time thing slide, because, again, I'm trying to make this fit a little bit better for, I guess, average audiences. Time's kind of, I have a thing with time. Anyway, so the longer you're there, essentially, the more time you have to kind of familiarize yourself with the nuances of the energies around you, as opposed to just kind of bursting in like a bull in the china shop. Now, the fun part was when I was learning, it was kind of a look but don't touch. I'm not doing anything with it. The whole point of learning to be still and to be silent was so then when I took the next step and started basically observing these energies, I knew to sit still and keep my mouth shut, so to speak, and just observe what was going on. If you are constantly thinking about the thing that you're going to say next or the thing you're going to do next, you're not really having a full amount of focus on what's actually happening around you, because your consciousness and your thought patterns are usually divided. Not always, but with a large portion of the population, that is the case. So again, it was not listening to speak, it was listening to listen. And over time, I got better and better at it. It became apparent that lots of different energies reacted and did things in lots of different ways. So whereas many people learn by correspondences or other books and things that tell you what things mean, I didn't learn it that way. I learned it by literally observing it. And I don't mean I sat out there with a snack and a drink and just kind of watched these energies go. You kind of have to actively be thinking about what you're seeing. I like to question everything. I try to go for a minimum of 8 questions, because you want to, run it all the way back to the source if you can. What am I seeing? Why is that happening? What caused it? What would have changed it? What could have prevented it? Did we want to prevent that? Should that be prevented? Should it be allowed to go all the way through? How did everything else affect it? Now that that's happened, what chain of events is that set off? How do the varying levels of energy, I guess I'm going to call them levels, some of them are, I guess, heavier or deeper. Maybe deeper is the better word. And some of them are kind of light and breezy, for lack of a better word. A little bit hard to quantify these things, but much like my little ocean analogy in the other episode, same way. Some energies are deeper, slower, unyielding energies, and some of them are kind of light and flowy and, really subject to change. They're quite whimsical. And how do they all work together? Because they absolutely do. If you know how to observe them, you can see how they work together. If you do that for long enough and you constantly think and ask yourself questions and ask questions of it, and you're kind of pushing your understanding and you want true comprehension of it, you will find that you aren't really going to need correspondences all that much. I always think correspondences can be a little bit silly sometimes. And a lot of that has to do with, everything's kind of interrelated. But also, I guess I can't just look at something as a series of, it's not Legos. It's not like a series of little bricks that you snap together and voila, there it is. There are components, yes, but they kind of all work together, and it's much more fluid, I guess. I don't like the term precisely, but it is less rigid and more fluid, maybe. So less Lego, more water. That's pretty much energy in any form. Now, that's going to include your gods and goddesses. That's going to include your tools. Everything is a little bit more water and a little bit less Lego. But unfortunately, many people seem to see magical work, which is essentially manipulation of things around you to get what you want. And all of those things, on a very, very fundamental level, are energetic. I see so many posts like, how do I get rid of offerings? Because you were using the energy out of those offerings. You don't really actually need the offerings. You wanted that energy, which is a little bit more fluid, and now you got to get rid of the Legos, which was whatever it is you offered. So again, you're not going to see me leaving any particular offerings. At this point, I don't want to go through the cleanup, so I'm just going to take the energy, do what I need to do, and not have to do the cleanup. It just seems more efficient that way. I mean, if people like cleanup, go for it. But I don't want to have to dispose of spell parts. Don't want to have to explain what it is I'm trying to dispose of if anybody wanders across it. I don't know, if you're looking to stay undetected, having a bunch of stuff kind of opens up the door. The probability of it is eventually you're going to get kind of caught. So I'm going to take a little side trip here while I'm thinking of it. we've had a fun development around here. I talked a little bit about I guess I'm going to call it like my little energetic barrier that I use for the wind and rolled up the roof and all of that, if you've listened to that episode. I ultimately didn't take it down, but I mean, I'm still using it. And I have had 4 different regular people come to me in the last week and say, have you noticed that the storms and the winds and everything seem to be going around us? So, even though I don't have spell components for anybody to find, clearly they do pick up on this stuff after a while. I'm going to have to tone that back. I just didn't want to deal with the wind after that one roof rolled up. Just didn't seem like it was something all that much fun. Also, while we can be without power for weeks on end and it's okay, I don't really care for it. I do love turning on a light switch and having the light come on. So, yeah, I've been redirecting bad weather. And apparently, I really didn't think about it. I would personally consider this to be sloppy on my part, but I have done it so much and so well that it's gotten obvious to non-magical people that everything is going around our area. So that's my side trip for today. I have to kind of tone it down a little bit and lay a little bit low because people are starting to get kind of suspicious of something is wrong. And while they don't necessarily think that I did it per se, they know something's going on, and usually when there's something happening and they don't know what to do, they come tell me about it. Which of course makes a great early warning system because now I know to tone it down a little bit. Fun fact though, I wasn't really even trying. So now I'm going to have to go work to restrain myself. Most people have to work harder to get stuff done. I have to work harder to not get things to happen. That's an interesting problem. So anyway, back to energy. I observed probably for a few years. Please don't think that these things happen fast. Even when I got good at them, it did not mean I was allowed to move on to other things. Usually I had to learn to integrate my new skill set with my existing skill set. Because again, we want everything to be smooth. You want it to be kind of muscle memory and very instinctual. And the other thing is understanding is not something necessarily that you're going to get overnight. You may understand the concept, but true understanding and being able to just look at it and know, that takes a little bit of time. It's not a quick process. Might be why it's not real popular in magical traditions because, well, it's not flashy and it isn't fun. It's kind of a grind. You're just constantly working. Now, you can make it fun because we all know I really like to make things fun for myself. This is one of the reasons why you got to find, I guess, joy in what you're doing while you're working. Doing the same thing like this all the time, just learning to be constantly aware of all the little energies that are around you and all the big energies and how they're all working together, and then learning to hold that in your awareness while you go about your normal day-to-day life. It's not real interesting. We're not channeling the forces of the cosmos or, out having meet and greets with gods and goddesses. I guess it's not the flashier fun magic. I don't think that's fun magic, but again, I've over time managed to warp my idea of what's fun into something I can live with. So instead, I would set myself series of challenges. What is the lightest energy I can find right now? What is the deepest energy I can find right now? Where is the biggest point of friction I can find? Those kind of things. Can we, pick a random bird and what's going on with that random bird? What's the energy level? Is there an illness in there? Just learning to sense it, pick up on things, and then knit that into the energetic world around you. And then from there, growing it bigger and bigger until you're, I don't know what you want to call it, I guess knitting it into the energetic universe. Basically, you just kind of have to find fun ways to do that. You've got to find yourself little challenges. Today I need 18 different grass energies. Judging by this tree, which leaf is going to fall first? Those kind of things. Is there a crack? Will a limb break? Where are the animals around you? And we don't mean just your domestic animals, but where are the, beetles and snakes and those kind of things. But you get the idea. It has to, you have to make it a little bit of a game in order to kind of keep yourself entertained while you're doing this because, again, not flashy, not fun, doesn't happen fast. Not too sure there are many other people who do it that way. If somebody out there is doing it that way, let me know. I'd be curious to see if anybody else learned like that. What I can say is that in the end, I mean, it was not the most fun way to learn, but it did provide me with a really, really good basis now for when I move or travel or do anything around here where I have a conscious awareness of all the little energies around me, like how to pick up on them. Now, obviously, if I'm traveling or somewhere else, I'm not going to get that real deep, thorough understanding because, again, I just haven't been there long enough to get the cyclic nature of it under control. But you can definitely pick up on the little fine things that you might otherwise miss in a new place. So you're a little bit more sensitive to the layers and how they interact, even if you're out and about. The other fun thing is because I've spent a lot of time here with, particularly with the land and everything. Technically, all the land is interconnected, and you can take the energies and kind of, I don't know how much I can get into here, but you can take them and kind of, I'm going to say, twist them and spin them, and on a fundamental level, wherever you are, when you're out traveling, if you give it a minute, because obviously you're a ways away, you can, I guess, gain easier access to it because on some level it recognizes you, even if it's because it's 57th cousin 6 times removed. I guess it's like kind of a little bit friend of a friend of a friend of a friend kind of thing, so they'll be kind of friendly to you because they kind of sort of can say that they know you, but they don't really. Same thing if you're out traveling, well, at least if I'm out traveling, I can at least say that if I really needed to tap into any of the energies out and about, I really probably could. I generally do not. I have my own set of energies that I keep in storage so that when and if I do travel, it is not strictly necessary for me to borrow from the locals. I kind of think it's a little bit rude to just kind of barge into the area and be like, okay, and now I need energy for, I don't know, whatever it is I might be doing. Usually, if I'm traveling, I'm trying to stay undetected, so I usually keep all work to an extreme minimum. But I just think it's rude to hit up the local energies. They don't necessarily know me well, and it's sort of like going into a stranger's house and rifling through their fridge. You wouldn't really do it. Same thing for me. I have my off-plane storage facility. I guess we'll call it a storage facility, where I have usually more than sufficient energy tucked away. And if I had to work when I was out and about, I would draw from there. A couple of reasons behind that. You've heard me just now tell you that it's sort of like rifling through a stranger's fridge. And personally, I have kind of my own little set of rules, I suppose, for what is polite. So obviously, I'm not going to rifle through that fridge. The other thing is if I'm out and about, I'm usually trying to stay undetected. If you start playing with the local energies, it's basically going to lead right back to you. You can muddy those waters all you want, but if anybody's passably decent, they can hunt you down. I also don't like making a lot of noise, I guess, energetic noise when I'm working. So I will not work with the local stuff. I guess I could if it was a last ditch thing, but I've never run into a last ditch thing, and I usually have more than sufficient for whatever I need in the tanks, as I like to call them. So the tanks, because somebody's going to ask me about those, I'm sure, are a set of, I guess for lack of a word, storage tanks, and you can visualize them like that. It's pretty close. I keep them off plane in a particular area. I'm up to 4 now. They are substantial. They hold a large volume of energy. And I have spent literal decades developing this entire system for these tanks and how I get the energy into the tanks, where it comes from, those kind of things. There is a filtration system on them. I have overload taps. I have all sorts of additives for these. I even have a preservation system. I have a camouflaging system. I have a lot built into these tanks. I guess I did it mainly because I really don't like taking from any of the other energetic sources if I can avoid it. If I tap, even the stuff here that I know, if I were to tap onto it and pull, first of all, I hate doing that because when I pull, I usually get too much because even the smallest pull for me, it's a lot more than I necessarily need. I might need a trickle, and if I go and pull on the local energies, everything's going to rush at me and it's going to be too much. And maybe having too much energy is not something a lot of people deal with. It can be really annoying, and it can actually be very detrimental to whatever kind of work you're doing if you get too much. So again, I try not to do anything with the local energies. Generally speaking, I try not to do anything. But if I have to pull energy for a particular work, I'll pull from there. If I'm traveling, it's not leaving a trail locally. I'm meddling with space and time here. So the odds of another practitioner being anywhere near where I am with the ability to effectively trace something that I've taken steps to make untraceable across space and time and dimensions. I don't know, it's very convoluted, but let's just say that this is kind of a long thought out process. It's very unlikely that anybody's going to run that energetic source down. And it's going to happen quick enough that unless you're looking right in the right spot, you're not going to see it anyway. So that's what I'm going to use if I'm traveling. Maybe I ought to do an entire episode on the tanks. People might enjoy the tanks. The tanks are intertwined with a lot of my other works, like the energetic barrier thing that I used for the wind. While the tanks don't necessarily supply that, they did initially provide me with the energetic components that I use to kind of tie into the land. It's not like personal energy, but it's kind of like personal energy because I kind of funneled it through. But I could use the tanks to fund that if I had to. I don't generally. Honestly, I can't really think of anything outside of the stuff I have, actually tied into the tanks. I don't really even use them all that much. There was some debate a month or so ago about whether or not I needed a fifth tank. I'm just not going to do it right now. I'll put that on hold maybe next winter when I have some free time. Right now, it is getting warm. The sun has been coming out, and I have been, whenever opportunity presents itself, even though it is very cold still, I like to go out and soak in the sun a little bit and just listen to the farm waking up. We are starting the planting right now. It's kind of insane because it's supposed to snow in 2 days, so, I'll be out there covering plants with blankets, and anybody who's having a vision of like 6 little tomato plants, please know. There will be like 300 tomato plants. There's like an acre and a half of potatoes. It's huge. And so I will be running around like a mad person out there basically tucking the fields in a couple days if the weather forecast does not change. And I could tell you what the weather's going to do, but why ruin it for everybody else? They never believe me when I tell them anyway. So I have enjoyed just getting out into the sun. This is a tiring time of year for me. It's kind of like being ill or maybe injured. Blood loss might be a good analogy. I'm washed out. I'm tired. Basically, right now, it's fall evaluation time. The snow is gone. Everything's starting to, bud out and get ready for spring. We are past maple season. Not quite into bear season yet. It's coming, though. Shouldn't be long before we got a bear situation. I am basically priming everything to grow. And a lot of that has to do with knowing what the weather's going to do and knowing what the plants think about that. I've been immersed in these energies for a very long time, and I know the ebb and the flow. And now I know what to do with all of the things, and I can read all of the signs around here, and I know exactly what each little energetic bubble means. And I'm going to take that knowledge, and I'm going to use it to my advantage, and I'm going to make the hayfields grow, and the food is going to grow, and pretty much anything else that I need to grow is going to grow. Trees are going to bud, then I've got to keep the buds alive, and we're going to talk to the bees, because again, it all kind of melds together. And in the middle of that, I have to take slightly feral animals and convince them that, yes, you've had 6 months of complete freedom, and have done anything you wanted to do for 6 months, but now we all have to get back to work. And much like small children after recess, they're not super thrilled about coming back into work. That is next on my to-do list. I kind of started already last weekend. It's going all right. The ticket is you've got to be in control of your energy because they're not really in control of theirs right yet. We'll get there. It's, again, energetic manipulation. You just got to have a feel for it. And I would strongly suggest that if anybody, is looking for something to do, maybe your practice is in a bit of a rut, or maybe you're in a rut, is stop trying to do stuff. Just don't do anything, but sit around and I say sit around, you don't have to sit around, but I find a lot of people find it easier to sit so that they can focus. And if you can, that's super. If I ever sat down and was found just sitting somewhere, somebody'd find me something to do. So yeah, just take a few minutes and start testing the energies around you. What energy's on that doorknob? How does the floor feeling? What are the walls doing? What's it feel like outside? If you're in cities or towns where there's pavement, what's the feel of the pavement? What's the feel of the I want to say flooring, but it's not. It's basically the subbase in your road. And then how far down before you actually hit undisturbed dirt? Like, are you going through storm drains? What have you got there? Pick up on it energetically. They're, I guess, fun little games. I always tell myself they're fun little games. Maybe they're not, but I tell myself they're fun little games. Play them and see where you are. It isn't going to hurt to try something a little bit different. But also, do not try to introduce yourself to it. Try to do it without it knowing you're being there and observing it. Lots of people seem to think that these energies care about us. They don't. They've been here for a very long time. They're going to be here for a very long time. They've been around and they're going to be around, and you are not. So you're kind of a blink in the eye for them. Don't worry about introducing yourself to them. Lots of people introduce themselves to them. They all want something. At this point, I'm surprised there's any energy around here that is not completely gun shy of anybody introducing themselves to them. Because if I was that kind of energy, I would be a little bit unhappy to see yet still another person coming by, because usually the only time people stop by with energy is when they want something. Anyway, I think I'll stop there for today. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with others. If you have any questions or a topic you'd like to hear more about, you can contact me through my website, thesolitarypractice.com. You'll have an option there. You can leave me a voice message or an email. I don't really care which, whatever works best for you. And thanks again for listening. I will see you next week.